Hello. We need to get started, so perhaps you can take your seats. No, I am not Nikas, but I am sporting Nikas hair, however. Welcome to the first InTalks with Nikas. I'm very excited to be here, and I'm sure you are too. My name is Jane Ganal. I'm a writer, journalist, co-founder of a literary festival, but really tonight I'm just here because I'm Nikas's friend, and I have been for almost 15 years now. Please turn off your ringers, but feel free to tweet as much as you would like. And if you are tweeting, try using the hashtag InTalksSF. That's with two S's, so InTalksSF. If you enjoyed tonight's presentation, remember that these are going to be taking place hopefully on the last Thursday of every month, so that the next one will be February 27th. Go to InTalksSF.com to find out where and what the subject matter will be. As a reminder, this event is being streamed live, so if you don't wish to be videotaped for some reason, then by all means avoid this camera right here. As you leave, or if you haven't already, please leave your contact information on the list at the front. And also, we are greatly appreciative of some of you having booked tickets on Eventbrite and made donations that way. Anyone else who would like to make a donation would be very welcome, as this event does cost money for Nikas to put on. So, a little bit about my friend Nikas. I first met him at Willow Salon, which he started working at almost 15 years ago, I guess 1999. My regular stylist was unavailable, and she said, but I have a new colorist who's going to be really great, and you'll love him, and his name is Nikas. And she pointed him out to me, and my first thought was, oh God, please let him be straight. But that did not, in fact, happen. Over the years, our friendship has deepened. He's always had an ear for anything that I felt like talking about. He listened. He's an excellent listener, just like any good bartender you know. He was like the bartender with excellent hair color skills. I found that his advice was always extremely spot on and based in a very deep humanity, which I think is the thing that we all can agree characterizes what Nikas is. I was fascinated by his stories about growing up, at first wealthy, and then as part of an ashram, where he sort of learned at the knee of some great spiritual teachers. So it was almost as if he was being groomed for this new phase in his life. It has not always been a smooth journey for Nikas. We all know he's had a few demons here and there. I will never forget the time I went to get a haircut and color, and he confided quite openly that he was completely whacked out. I don't even remember on what. It might have been meth. I don't know. And I said, okay, how about you don't do the cut today, and we'll just do the color. But I watched him stumble, and I watched him fall, and I watched him pick himself up again. It's very moving to me how you've done that. Anyway, a few times, and his good friends stuck with him throughout, because he stuck with his friends. And each time he would rise again from the ashes, it would seem to me like the lessons that he learned were sharper, and the capacity for his introspection and from learning grew deeper. So anyway, in recent years, I have watched him blossom thanks to his ongoing spiritual search. I'm sorry I have to use that word spiritual, but it applies. And also thanks to his work with Zen Hospice, and all of it has sort of combined to make him seem to me stronger, more vocal, and more alive than he ever has been. So it was no surprise at all when he told me that he was thinking about starting these talks and putting himself on stage. I told him I thought it seemed absolutely perfect, and so it is. So may I please introduce to you your very humble speaker and my very darling friend, Nikas.
Hello. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Hi. Okay. Hey, yeah, so my name's Nikas. And it was an interesting week for me. This is the second job I'm starting new this week. My first job, which is my day job, which is a hairdressing job, as most of you know, suddenly changed. The rug sort of got pulled out from under me, and I had to change venues, locations, and shift all of my clientele with me on the spot, immediately. And it wasn't because it was something I wanted to do at that moment. Now, I had wanted to do this for some time, and it sort of pushed away that little red flag that kept coming up, and said, oh, you can make this work, you can make this work. Yeah, give it some time. Oh, this, somebody else is quitting, so you can make this work. And the reality was, it was something that I needed to do. The universe provided for me an avenue in which for me to be able to do that thing. It was not the way I wanted it to come down. I like to do things with a little more thought, but it turns out that I don't always get the choice. Sometimes life just kind of hands you something. If I trace the event back, there was a time when I made the choice to stay in that situation after I knew what was up. And so for me, that's really what my life's journey has sort of been about is finding out, what part did I play in things? Where is this guy named Nikas? Who is the guy who's making these choices? Who is he? What is the thing that wants or doesn't want? What is the thing that tries to bring things that bring it comfort closer and tries to push away the things that are fearful? Who is that? What is that thing? So my journey brought me here this week, sitting here, on the stage, to do this thing called InTalks. I wish I could give you guys some history about InTalks, but this is it. This is the history. There is none, right? This is it. 11 weeks ago, it was a thought in my mind. So sort of the thought came to me, to use a expression that some of us know. The thought came to me that it's time for you to do the speaking thing. And I thought, oh, okay, so it is. I kind of, as Jane said, I kind of feel like my whole life has sort of been groomed to get me to this point, and I think this is the first step in a series of something. I'm not really sure. But this hairdressing job has served me incredibly well. I've been able to be quite good at it. It's been able to pay all my bills, and then some at some points in my life. Right now, it's just paying all my bills. But it feels like that there is a shift that's happened inside me that is sort of dying to be heard. It feels like that I have a new job, and that job is to talk about with groups of people what makes people tick. To be really honest, InTalks, I've done a lot of writing on it, and what started off actually as Nikas Talks, because I thought that was the great name to start with, right? Duh, it's my name. Very, very quickly, I got the little intuitive message that said, yeah, no, less Nikas and more talks. And so what that meant was that not so much me speaking, although, I'm going to yak just a little bit just to sort of give people an understanding of what this is, but less about me saying anything because, at the end of the day, I'm a hairstylist. I'm a ex-drug addict. Well, I'm still a drug addict, but I just don't seem to put the drugs anymore in the body. I didn't graduate college. I didn't graduate high school. I took the GED. I went to beauty school. I did pass the state board with a flying 100%, by the way. But, who am I? I'm just a guy that's just kind of had a walk through his life And that walk has seemed to sort of open my eyes to there being more to this thing than meets the eyes. So, yeah, 11 weeks ago it was a thought, and here we are, almost 12 weeks later, and I'm sitting on a stage in front of people and sharing. What I'd like to see this sort of turn into, at least right now, is some sort of a social dialogue. It's some sort of way of bringing people in from different socioeconomic backgrounds, different neighborhoods, different generations. I'm dating a guy who's a millennial, and let me tell you what, the millennials are way different than the baby boomers, if you all haven't noticed, right? It's interesting, I turn on the television and I hear the narrative of, all these people just not getting along. And what I don't hear is people talking about what they stand for. What I hear all the time is what people stand against. And, it's funny, Obama actually said that in his speech the other night. He says, the American people have the right to hear what we stand for, not just what we stand against. And that reminded me of Gandhi, when he talked about the nonviolent approach that he took, which was, I am not against British rule, I am for Indian rule. He came at it in such a way that he stood for something. He had a cause, a belief, an understanding, a position that he stood for. And what I don't see so often is people standing up, rising up, and saying what it is that they truly believe. And so without, I hear it all the time, what they believe, but it's usually in the, what I believe, you're wrong. This is why I think I believe you're wrong, and which then automatically makes me right. And so for me, what I'd like to do is sort of get some gatherings together where we spoke amongst ourselves about, what we stand for. So I thought, let's just do a series, and let's make the topic about prosperity. And I thought, that was another one of those things that kind of came to me, and it's like, prosperity, that's not a word that I use in my regular vernacular. As anyone that's close to me, it's just not a word. I don't run around saying prosperity. So it was kind of weird to use this word, and it reminded me of Spock, live long and prosper. I'm like, what does prosperous mean? But when I did the due diligence and looked some of these words up in the dictionary, I started to see that prosperity had to do with success. But, not just necessarily financial success, but a wellness, a well-being, a success in living, a growing. When I think of a prosperity, when I think of if a garden is prosperous, a garden is not prosperous just because 3 vegetables on the last row happen to be giving a lot of fruit. A garden is prosperous because the entire thing is being very generous with what it has to offer. Prosperity to me on an individual level might look like, I have. Prosperity on a citywide or a national wide or a global might look something like, everyone has enough. When I see this city is really changing, right? I mean, it's completely changing. In 10 years, what will this city be? What will downtown look like? What will the TL look like? I don't know. But it's probably going to be a lot different than it looks right now. Some people are very much against such things. Some people are for them. Some people doesn't really affect them. But the one thing that's for sure is change is a coming. So as things change, wouldn't it be nice if we all sort of took part in figuring out how those of us who have, how we can assist those of us who don't? If some people are moving in and some people are moving out, is it possible with all of the resources that we have as a society, and I mean this locally and I mean this, globally. We have enough. We have enough. We just have to figure out how to make the enough work. So for me, what I thought is, okay, let's just open a dialogue amongst friends, amongst locals here in San Francisco, and talk about this thing called prosperity, and then sort of individual night by night, last Thursday of every month, we'll sort of chip away at a different aspect of what that looks like. And so the first aspect I thought would be, how do we make our decisions? What is the sort of fundamental nuance behind how we make our decisions? Do we make our own internal decisions based on a sense of fear or anxiety or a sense of lack? Or do we make our decisions based on a sense of wellness and abundance and that sense that, I have enough, I can actually give some away? I figure, if we can kind of see how each one of us ticks inside, if each one of us can see really how our own decision-making process, if we can sort of do a little self-examination and see how we operate, then possibly when we go out and we're faced with challenges, opportunities, questions, to do something outside, we can see that actually the way we've worked inside, and we could change. We could change. So change is coming. The question is, am I changing? Or am I staying the same? Is the way that I interact with the world changing, just as the world is changing? As I either increase in my level of prosperity or I decrease in my level of prosperity, am I changing the way that I interact with the world? So I know they're kind of deep questions. I know they're kind of serious, but the idea is to not make them serious. The idea is to make them light and to make them just like an inquiry, just kind of like, so tell me about how you make decisions. Tell me about something that recently happened to you where you noticed a decision that you made and how you might have made it differently. Or tell me about, the worst decision you ever made or the best one. Tell me about anything that is of interest that might sort of give and add. The idea for me is like if we can get a little bit of a dialogue going on here about how each one of us works, I'm pretty certain everyone that's sitting there and everyone that's watching this via live stream, I'm pretty sure we're all similar. We're all same. And I'm sure that, by seeing that different people have events and circumstances and outcomes in their life that are just like mine, but usually don't talk about them because, that's just not what we do. We always try to present, look at me, I'm so great, but it's not, That was one of the things I learned, as Jane said, from hairdressing. What I did as a hairdresser is I showed up, and if I was a mess, I was a freaking mess, But I knew that there was no hope for me if I wasn't honest, if I wasn't authentic, if I wasn't true. I realized there was no hope. It wasn't going to get better. The only way to get to it was through it. I couldn't skirt. I couldn't get around. I had to own up to some stuff. I had to get honest about what the inside looked like and how the inside operated. So, with that said, and of course, it might be a little scary, but if anyone would like to raise their hand and come and have a seat in this microphone. Oh, yeah, I didn't mention that. So, there's another seat here, and there's another microphone here, because what I'd like to do is have people from the audience just kind of raise their hands, because I know you're all very excited to raise your hand right away quickly and be the first person to sit up here, just like I am, you know what I mean? I'm actually the first, so you'd be the second, so it's real simple. There's a microphone, we just talk, pretend everybody's not there. But so we'll just kind of have a little dialogue and people will get to witness it. So, is there anybody that would just love to come up immediately? Please do. How are you, brother?
Always great.
Speak to me.
Hi, everybody. I'm Jameson. I kind of like talking, so It's sometimes it works out for me, sometimes it doesn't, but I just kind of let it flow, and every once in a while some magic comes out.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
I figure I'd like any opportunity to see if that happens.
Jameis and I met at Huntington Park up on Nob Hill. Just a couple fellow city folk enjoying the day. And suddenly and very quickly, our conversation went to some pretty lovely, deep topics, which is where I like to reside. In
Likewise, it didn't take long. I mean, there was the idle chit chat. I was shirtless and taken in the sun, and then
which was not bad looking.
And he wanted to be shirtless too. So he's like, "Hey, we can be those weird shirtless guys chilling out at the park
in Nob Hill."
And it was the beginning of a beautiful friendship. So, he was just asking me what I was studying, what I was learning about, and I started telling him a little bit about the subject matter that I was interested in, which is, needless to say, the heavy stuff, the deep stuff. And, we cut right to the chase, and,
So, and what do you want to tell everyone what you're in school for?
I'm studying filmmaking. I have always wanted to utilize the art of filmmaking to facilitate understanding and clarity as a means to help people understand the world around them and understand themselves better, and do it in an artistic and creative way that's both engaging and informative at the same time.
And you're how old?
22.
Yeah, I didn't have that kind of vision at 22. I was busy doing that at 20.
Yeah, well, people from your generation came to our high schools and told us that's a bad fucking idea. Don't do it. Don't do it. And we're like, all right, I'll steer clear of the needle.
So where did you get this understanding of kind of your passion for filmmaking? I mean, when did that first come to you?
Oh, since the beginning. I mean, I was so expansive in the way that I thought and in the way that I experienced reality. And when I would see movies as a kid, with the special effects and the music and all of the different things coming together, it was like, this is the one medium that humanity has to offer in which I could adequately articulate and express my vision and how I see things in the world without any limitations, without anything holding me back. And I thought that is what I want to do. I want to be at the precipice of that art form unfolding.
Is it so one could say, right, this is real life. One goes into a movie theater, one sits down, and one sort of shuts off real life and goes into some sort of fictional place, and yet somehow that fictional place that we go to can sometimes gain us.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, a lot of people go into the cinematic experience as a means of, I guess, for lack of a better term, escape. But I think it has a similar effect as going to sleep. When you have your dream sequences, your REM cycles of sleep, it organizes your cognition in certain ways. You soak in information, it affects you, it transforms your outlook just by being there. Essentially, with filmmaking, by sitting in and to watch a film, you're just soaking in this experience and digesting it mentally and processing it, and as a result, it's transforming you. It's changing your outlook. It may be minute, it may be momentous, but the fact is that you're going through an experience that transforms you. And just like when you wake up after a night's sleep and having had all these strange and interesting dreams, the sleep does more than just restore your body physically. It reorients your mind and helps you kind of sort things out and experience something separate from your waking life.
So would you say that was, their decision making process? Bring it back into. So if one sees movies, then their decision making process might be changed.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's the basis of my intention.
Okay.
You know, I think so much of our experience in life comes down to our choices, our free will, if you believe we have free will. I think that we can't always choose what life brings our way, but we can always choose how to react to it, how to respond to it. And we're given this range of potential choices, this range of options and opportunities. And whenever a situation comes our way in life, we have this sort of this arsenal of tools, of tricks, you know, under our belt, based off of what we've been exposed to, based off of what we've learned, based off of what is innate within us.
So tell me, how do you react? How do you personally? Say conflict comes up. How are you at reacting?
Well, would you say like a personal conflict?
Sometimes.
Yeah, I whenever a conflict arises, and there's a lot of conflict in this world, both you know, abroad and in our personal lives, I try, first of all, I make sure I know what my intentions are in my life. You know, there's the saying, know yourself. I think that's one of the most important parts of anybody's life experience, is knowing yourself. It makes it easier for you to go into any kind of situation with clarity and focus and direction. So I start by knowing what my intentions are, which are to promote prosperity, like you were talking about. I want my actions to lead towards a world that is prosperous for all, not just all people, but for all life. And so then I go from there and I establish that's my intention. Then I ask myself, how can I resolve this conflict so that it leads to a mutual understanding, a clarity, and a sense of respect, not necessarily both seeing eye to eye, but a respect and that sort of thing. So I usually, what I try to look for is the similarities. You know, when, you know, like you were talking about, we often get caught up in our differences. We get caught up in what we stand against. And I think it helps to try to understand where the person is coming from and understand what kind of life experiences have they been through that have motivated them to have the disposition that they do, or to behave or to respond in the way that they are, and try to find a remedy, not necessarily not that there's something that needs to be cured, but to try to resolve the conflict.
It seems to me like there's always, like, every problem is like there's some solution. There's like some like alternate universe that's just like all solutions. It's nothing but solutions, and it's like they're all just sitting around waiting for like a problem to happen in this reality so that they can come and like save the day. And I often wonder, like, you know, why is it that we're more problem? Why is it that, you know, the majority of my head, when my head thinks of something, it usually doesn't talk about all the glorious solutions that are available to things. My head usually goes to all the oh my gosh, you couldn't do that. Oh my gosh, that's you don't have the money to do that. Oh my gosh, you can't. You're not qualified to do that. You know. And then you turn that towards other people. You know, it's difficult.
Yeah, I definitely know exactly what you're talking about. I think that there's two aspects of our human experience, you know, the positive side of things and the negative side of things, and it's this mixed bag. And you know, ultimately what we want to do is promote the positivity, promote the positive things, without necessarily ignoring or disregarding or shoveling all the negative stuff up to the side. It's being able to address it with that clarity and that level-headedness, so that it doesn't bring you down, and it's very easy. It's very easy for that to happen. So it's sometimes we feel like we're in this battle of trying to be positive when against insurmountable negativity just bombarding us, and then it kind of like almost like an infection, like a sickness. It kind of spreads to you, this negativity, and then you kind of start spreading it, like coughing it off onto other people, and before you know it, just kind of, coming around. And that positivity, though, is the same way.
Can it also be infectious?
It's infectious. Positivity is infectious too, and it's like
Laughing.
being on the precipice of that moment where you find, here's that negativity coming. I can either get infected with it, or I can try to sort of transform it, convert it into positive, and send the positive back. And that's, it's like being in the heat of that moment, every waking moment of our lives. It's not easy, and sometimes your defenses fall down, and you get hit with that negativity, and then you got to kind of work through it and kind of filter it out, and do your best not to throw it off at somebody else.
Well, thank you so much for coming up and sharing. I
course,
appreciate it.
thank
Yeah. Yeah, I'm like a youth like this. My goodness, if we could have a whole crop of that, and we are. I mean, we really are. We really are. There's a lot of brains, and there's a lot of wellness happening out there in the community. Next, who would love to come up next and rap? Please. Ah, yes. Miss Sarah Meakin. Hi, baby.
This is a very huge honor to be up here with you. My name's Sarah Meakin. I'm a native-born San Franciscan. I'm very proud of that fact. I've known Nikas for, 9 years?
Something like that.
Something like that. And it was love at first sight, I think. And we've been on a wonderful journey since. And I have been nothing short of delighted at the authentic way in which he has approached the path that he's on now, and it's just been a huge inspiration to me. And I don't know, how do you want to go about this?
Okay, so tell us something that you wouldn't want anyone to know. So it's you and me, and we're sitting at the chair.
Okay, you know what? I got something real fresh.
Okay, cool.
Real fresh.
Right on.
Like,
It
happened within the last hour, actually. That's why I'm a little bit late tonight.
Perfect.
I hit a tsunami of self-pity and personal conflict this evening. It was with my younger brother. Sibling conflict.
Imagine.
It's like some of the best. Actually, pertaining to what you were just discussing with Jameson, when we come up against conflict, I think it is a wonderful distinction to make between reaction and response. Reaction, for me, is defined by the fact that I'm coming from a place where I'm ruled by emotion, usually fear. And fear of whatever, being hurt or being seen or being abandoned, any of those beautiful common places we all find ourselves. Response is a thoughtful place, comes from faith. You believe in what you know to be true, and though it is unseen, it is yet still tangible to our conscience, to our soul. Where I found myself this evening, knowing that it was going to be, or had the huge potential to be, that beautiful game of 52 pickup. and there's been a lot of thin ice, a lot of hot blades on the thin ice. But the authenticity and the honesty isn't so much in ordering all your steps. It's also being brave enough to just let it all fall. And it's not all going to happen at once. It took a long time to get where you are in this conflict. It's going to take a while to get to the desired place as a result.
Okay, so my question is, does it have to? So is that true? Is it true that just because it took X amount of time to get here, can suddenly, all at once, simultaneously, instantaneously, it be different?
Yes, it can. But
so what's required for that?
Not being afraid of which way it might go in order to be different.
Uh-huh.
My prescribed formula that I went into, the way I want things to be, is a tiny infinitesimal possibility in the myriad of possibilities.
Okay.
So therefore, what I deem as negative or I deem as positive, all is, and eventually, in essence, positive, because it's in the creation, and it's in that acceptance. And so, do I want to? Does that mean I'm not accountable for my actions? No, not at all. However, those actions, even though they're in my immediate past, can be changed by how I receive them immediately following.
Yeah, I was talking with Mom earlier today, and she was talking about sort of like a life at some place where, excuse me, Mother, for talking without asking, just about, you know, at what point did I maybe throw in the towel, you know, and then how can it be different? And, you know, and this same question I asked her, you know, as if life is sort of instantaneously changed, if all of a sudden my thought about things changes, is my life not different? Is it not suddenly changed?
Yes.
And so it all comes down to really, it's my thoughts about the reality. It's not the reality. There's a quote, somebody, I think maybe Isaac, maybe it was you that posted about Henry Ford, or I don't know, somebody that was like, if you think you can and you think you can't, you're right. You know, it's like it's all just the sort of the perspective. It's just the way that it's being seen, the way that it's being held. Yeah.
And the surrender.
Yeah.
Surrender is something we're so incredibly afraid of.
Yeah.
It's a vulnerable feeling. That phrase, you know, you're only as strong as your weakest link, comes to mind. But even in all the knowing and the cumulative experiences we have of life, one of the things that is so incredibly real to me as I go forward in this life is that the childlike side of us. We're so easy to, as a child, to receive, to believe, and to forgive. And when we find out that we've done something that is in needing of forgiveness, we're so quick to go get it. And I think that if that's more of a present item in that arsenal that Jameson, I loved, by the way you spoke and your wording, fantastic. If that's a more present item, it's like right there in the forefront of my spice rack. How much more or how differently may I probably approach conflict? How much more open am I? And tonight, to wrap up a little bit of that fresh experience that I shared with everybody, is there's a bittersweetness to old pain, and conflict ignites it. And instead of going back over the litany, the old script of how and why all of these issues still exist, I found myself sending a text, and I had all of these things hitting up against the back of my teeth that I wanted to say, but my fingers found a place of, I love you, please forgive me, and it's going to be better.
Can I ask a difficult question?
Please.
Did you really mean the words, or
I did very much mean the words?
Because
yes.
I find myself sometimes saying the thing that's going to diffuse the situation, but I don't mean it.
And you know what's funny too, that nothing's over. Even if the conversation's over, nothing's actually over. Until I stop breathing and this heart stops ticking, the paint is still wet. And it doesn't matter how old I am, doesn't matter where I am, doesn't matter how much money I do or don't have in my pocket. The story is not over. The fat lady has not sung. And that approach definitely will just change the perspective a little bit on how conflict and how choice is made. That's what I felt.
Is there anything that you would like to? Is there some way of resolution that's beyond this issue? Is there something greater that you can do in this particular relationship with a brother? Is there some dialogue that can happen between you and him that would solve a deeper misunderstanding?
I think it's the invitation of asking the other what they truly would like. Instead of coming from, I'm not this and I'm too much that and you've never ... What is it you truly would like from me? What is it you truly... I learned this quite unintentionally. I work with children with special needs. I use horses as a form of therapy with autistic children and kids who have been abused or who have cerebral palsy, and there's a myriad of other special needs and diagnoses out there, and they're from 2 to 12 years old. And using horses is an incredible venue and instrument for the human being on the whole, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, physically. And every child is unique, and every diagnosis to that child is unique. And so there's not a lot of static definition that you can put to this. And there have been many times, my parents started the program, I grew up working in it, I took it over as executive director 10 years ago. So this wasn't something that I just woke up one day and say, hey, you know what, I want to do that. It was something that came to me in life. And it was a beautiful responsibility, accountability, and at times my shoulders did not feel wide enough. The reason why I'm telling you all of this is that there were so many times, and there will be times in my future immediately, in fact, on this Saturday I'll be doing it again, where I had to show up and just say, what is it you want? What is it you have for me today? And I don't care how many books I read or how many courses I take or how many degrees or anything. You're never actually prepared for what's going to show up that day. And there's 14 of them. And they come with their parents. And then there's my volunteers. And then there's the horses. Let's not forget them. So you have all these moving parts. And there's no way that you're going to be ready. And there will be conflict. You look up and you say, what is it you want? And you trust that you will have exactly what you need in that moment. And get ready to receive it, because when it comes, man, I'll tell you what, it'll blow you away.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Nikas. Thank you, everyone.
Wow. Yeah, absolutely. I find that quite often with my AA sponsees and sort of teaching thing that I do on the side, that you just never are prepared. I mean, all the book studies in the world, all the college courses, all the credits, all the diplomas, all the degrees, it just doesn't necessarily prepare you for what's necessary for this moment. What it takes is sort of the integrity to show up and just be willing. Like willingness is kind of just it, to just kind of show up. I mean, for me, like I just had to be willing to show up and see what happens. I don't know, be willing to fall on my face to say, I forgot what I was going to say. Just be willing to find out. That's to me one of the secrets of life now is just be willing to find out. Who knows what the hell is going to happen? It's crazy. Who's going to be next? Who's that going to be? Ah, yes. Hi, how are you? Want to tell everyone your name?
So my name is Jimmy. I'm from Denmark. Is it on? Can you hear me? Yeah? So I'm Jimmy from Denmark. Hello? Oh, yeah.
Sorry it's so cold. I'm freezing. Yeah. Note to self. Yeah. Tell church about heater. If you're on live stream, you have no idea what you're missing.
Oh, yeah.
So tell us.
Decision making or...
Yeah.
Well, I noticed a lot of things when you guys were talking. And I also noticed like how my mind would start to tell me stories, how I would act or not act. And I also noticed how you asked one person if a conflict happens.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if I truly could decide, it would not happen in the way it turns out, because I would, like just now, before I come up here, I would not decide my heart is beating and I get nervous. Wait, there's something not working here. So I'm not really in charge, right? Not all the time. But I did notice I can choose to come up here.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't choose my body reactions.
Okay.
Or the chemical
Right.
chemicals.
Right.
And
Or there's sometimes that you don't actually have choice and you just do, though. I mean, I'm a firm believer also in sort of the whole idea of free choice. But I can look at my own life, and that's all I can speak of my own life. There were things that I did that were beyond my decision making. The decisions were greater than me. I know, you can decide to come up or not, but I mean.
so that's how I got here, I think, in US in the first place. So I was in Denmark. It was Saturday night. I didn't know where to stay that night. I've been not homeless, but living without an address for almost a year now. So that was a decision after split with my girlfriend, and things changed, and I traveled a lot. And I just got home from Singapore to Denmark, and I've been there a month. I was at my mom's place, and then I was in Copenhagen, which is the capital in Denmark. I was kind of on vacation there. So that Saturday night, I did not know where to stay, and I thought I was going to meet a friend. Mm-hmm. But it seemed he was occupied with his girlfriend, who just got home. Mm-hmm. And I go to a cafe. It's about to get 10 o'clock in the night. I get a beer and check my Facebook, mail the right people, and just see what goes on. And see there's an event in Bay Area for tech startups, and I participated in that event early on last year. So I sent it to a friend who's doing a startup, and no worries, I just sent it ... There's this event. And he calls me back immediately, say, should we go? It's 10 o'clock in the night, and it's starting Monday morning. It's Saturday night. It's like,
oh my God.
He's at a Christmas party drinking beers. Like, are you sure you want to go? And like, have you thought about this? You don't have a lot of budget. We talk about the ins and out, and he's like, yeah, I want to go.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me see if you can even get on the program.
Yeah.
So I write the guy. He replies back instantly. He's in US. It's like within minutes. He replies back instantly. Says, yes, I know you, Jimmy.
Yeah.
Because I trust you, I trust the other guy.
Yeah.
So we're in. And all this just takes on all night. I just say, okay,
right.
I have my small bag.
Yeah.
Early on the day, somebody asked, do you have your passport on you? Yes, I do. Right. It was in my jacket.
Right.
So I was like, I was going and say, let's figure out. And actually, I could go if I had to, but I wouldn't have time to go back and bring any, like, change my clothes, or I could just take what I had on me.
Wow.
So I go to this person's, actually to the party where he is, we talk, and say, okay, what have you talked with your girlfriend about this? He says, no. So you better get this cleared before you invite me into this whole mess, and she blames me. Mm. So we go to his place, and she wakes up and like, what? Are you going to San Francisco? For how long? And he says, yeah, for a week. And she said, okay, yeah, if you think it's good. So 2 o'clock in the morning, we decide, we go, said, let's check plane tickets. Usually it's not possible to order tickets in, like even just within 24 hours. And we looked up online, checked the search engine, and there was tickets, cheap tickets.
Bam.
Like 7 o'clock in the morning, we ordered the tickets. We got 3 hours sleep. We took what we got, went to the airport, and we got here.
So how did you know you were supposed to come?
I didn't.
It sounds like everything kind of lined up.
Yeah. So that's
Yeah. Would you say that when things line up, you have a sensibility that maybe that's the thing to do? I mean, that's a pretty broad stroke question, but what's your barometer for knowing whether you or not you made the right decision? How about that? That's a little more direct.
Honestly, I don't know, right?
Yeah.
But I just sometimes join the flow.
Okay. And what does the flow feel like?
Oh, it feels good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What does not being in the flow feel like?
Usually there's conflict if I'm not in the flow.
Oh. So you can tell whether or not you're in the flow by the way you feel and by the way the situations are around you?
Yeah, but usually that's after action is taken.
That's I've noticed that too.
Yeah.
Hindsight is amazing. Yeah, amazing. I've kind of really learned that. Yeah, so like intuition for me. And actually, you know what this talk was when I first came up with it I was like, oh, it's going to be living by intuition, and then I was like, no, don't make it all like wooey and all spiritual. No, get rid of that stuff. But that's what it's about. No. In the decision-making process, what I've come to understand is when I follow that thing called my intuition, which is my gut, which is the thing that actually tells me the right and the wrong thing to do at all times, if I quiet myself down and I listen, what's the next right thing to do? I have no idea 2 moves from now, but I know the next right thing to do. I can always sort of if I quiet this down enough, and sort of just kind of sink down a little bit and start listening from a deeper place, what I notice is that when I act from that place and I sort of move forward and make decisions based in that, turns out that thing of conflict following me or my body feeling pretty good actually it works out.
I wouldn't say it's comfortable to sit here. But at least there's not that conflict.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Right.
Maybe you experienced the same.
It's actually comfortable. I like being on stage.
But I noticed something different also, which I thought about when I was sitting down
Yeah.
there, which is my conditioning in life, which I don't have control over. So all the stuff I was put into when I was a child, and all those things I have not resolved, that is what at least affects all my situations also in these moments. It's also what's affecting me right now, why I'm getting cold in my body.
No, it's freaking cold.
Okay.
It's not your conditioning. It's the air conditioning or lack thereof. All right, brother.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming out. Yeah, it is freezing. Yeah, intuition and kind of following, so is there better words for intuition? Is there less wooey words? If you talk about intuition in a group of scientists, do you get booed off the stage? I mean, what's a word we can use that sums up, doing the thing that feels right without using the word intuition? Who wants to answer that, please? Is that a hint? Listening to your conscience. Is that going to get us kicked out of a science conference? Conviction of conscience. I don't know. It still sounds kind of... Choice? Choice. Okay. Yeah. That's not going to get us kicked out.
It could be the unconscious tapping into the summation of all previous experiences in our lives.
Okay. Yeah. Unconscious. Actually, there's Not here tonight. Adam Smith, my roommate, the roommate of my boyfriend Isaac, Google genius. He's one of my mentors as far as like smart guys. He gives me a sort of college course that's tailored to me because I didn't go to college, but I'm a total science nerd, and I get to ask him all sorts of questions about the science-y aspect of this thing. It seems like I've kind of come at this from an Eastern philosophical. That's been my sort of approach, and I kind of have the lingo and the format to do that. But what I don't have and what I'm learning is how to make all that stuff and the scientific approach, how to marry all that stuff together. Because as it turns out, you watch any documentary that's, new, and that's really kind of where it's all going. Somehow like the spirituality thing and the science-y thing are getting closer and closer and closer. They're getting really close to getting some like theory of everything, so it's kind of cool for me to see, because then it doesn't make me feel like such an oddball, especially if I can use terminology. Why are you laughing? Tanya, please come on up. Yeah, you laugh, you sit. Tanya was a wonderful assistant / apprentice / beautiful human being that we experienced hair color happening in such a way that both of us saw creativity happening that neither one of us could understand. It was kind of like we would literally at the end of every night we'd go and have a really big meal after making a butt ton of money. We would go and we'd have a big meal and we'd have a few cocktails and we'd cry. We'd literally cry, recounting the hair color throughout the day, and we just couldn't believe how beautiful it was.
Not counting the money, actually.
Yeah, move closer.
Yeah. That was just a little bit of the stuff that we experienced, but yeah, it was pretty big.
Hi.
Hi.
Yeah. So, who are you?
Decision making.
Yeah. What runs you in your private moments? You fear-based gal? Yeah.
Fear-based in the past, kind of moving through that and slowly shifting, which is a lot of personal therapy work that I'm doing right now, and definitely breaking a lot of, like, listening to everyone talk, breaking a lot of those habits and routines that come from stuff you've heard in the past, like whether you've been raised hearing that people are going to think about you a certain way, or whether you're not going to make it because you're not going to school to do this, or whatever it is that your parents kind of instill in you.
Sorry, plants attacking you.
Try to attack. Yeah, just kind of realizing that a lot of the traps, the like life traps that I kind of go through are stuff that are my parents have kind of, or not parents, but just people around me have kind of instilled. And then taking the lessons, being at a point in your life when you take the lessons and look at them yourself and kind of break that fear down, just based in a totally different like concept, just saying like all that is great, and I've learned some, moral like standards from that kind of stuff, but just really kind of being in tune with what feels right, and intuition is totally where you end up going.
Yeah, it seems to me, I don't remember who used the word conditioning. It seems like our conditioning is kind of like that. That's our. So we come into the world as just a clean operating system, and then we start loading on the programs, and at some point, I think we come to realize that all those programs that I downloaded and that got downloaded like at the same time because I didn't uncheck the boxes, all those things maybe aren't necessarily the best to move forward.
Except it's really hard when it's you have that whole. It's still conditioning. Like, for example, right now it's conflict between my dad and I, still always has been. But just him having a really strong personality and being a super negative, toxic energy.
Yeah.
And knowing that you still, like, inside this person, there is a good person there.
Yeah.
But in the everyday life, or anything that comes out from this person is just negative, and you just do not want to associate with that, because your decisions are affected by how they react, and you just don't want to make any decisions with that same negative kind of like energy, and just figuring out how to navigate trying to maintain a relationship without wanting to have that energy around, so that you don't make any decisions based on that. I think that's kind of my own.
Yeah, the parents one. Oh boy.
Yeah.
I think for everybody in the room, raise your hand if you have never had a problem with your parents. Oh gee, no hands went up. Neither did my mother's. Stories I used to hear about her and her mother.
But yeah,
I know it's. I remember when people. I can't remember who it was, but somebody said, "Nikas, sorry, Mom. It's your mother. Get over it. It's your mother. It's the only mother you have. You're gonna have to." And I was just like, "Yeah." And until the moment where this happened at Thanksgiving, she came and the very first conversation we had was, "Mom," I put her bags down and said, "Mom, I was kind of thinking that maybe we could take this trip to find a different way for us to communicate, because it seems to me for like the last 5 years, it's not been easy, you know." And she totally agreed. She was like, yep, I get you.
You got lucky.
Yeah.
It's not always that way. And listening to, I think it was Sarah was her name.
Yeah.
She was talking about just like listening to someone, asking them, what is it that you want?
Yeah.
That kind of,
Right.
I was like, I'm going to try that, because that's a different approach.
Yeah. That surrender word, to me, surrender is kind of like, so if I'm on the losing side of something, or, if a relationship or the losing side of anything, it's kind of like, let's see, okay, so I'm going to just like let go of that losing side. I'm going to like walk away, and I'm going to walk over to the side that apparently is winning, and I'm going to ask to take direction. So this way that I approach something, if it's not working, I need to just kind of like let it down. I need to drop it and then asking. I mean, inquiry, questioning. This, to me, all sort of problems can be solved if we ask questions, right? I mean, questions are the answer.
That's what intuition is at the end of the day, too. You're just questioning what you're feeling.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think that's probably not a bad idea inside, too.
So what are you going to do with that?
I don't have any solution yet.
Yeah?
It's just more about figuring out, figuring out who you are as a person and where that's going to take you in the relationship.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of decision making, is just knowing who you are and being stronger and stronger in who you are, and your convictions and where you stand and what you believe in and all that stuff.
And I've also noticed that, sometimes like letting those go, right? So my convictions and my beliefs and the things that I stand for, like sometimes it's really about letting them go. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like sometimes I'm better suited to hear what somebody else says if I actually walk away from my own convictions, But I also think that there's a process in life. I think that there is a process, and like, by God darn it, I'm just not going to get there without walking this line, And sometimes relationships, especially I think our primary ones, like you have to, somehow there's something that has to happen, and I have to go the whole way through it personally, and as well as in the relationship,
But I think sometimes, like you're saying, to step away from that conviction and that feeling, but sometimes that feeling is stepping away. Yeah. Sometimes just being like, that is who I want to be, is to just let the intuition take me, or just to go with the flow or whatever. Sometimes it's not about, sometimes that is who you want to be, but then there's obstacles around you, people, for example, toxicity. In its own way.
Toxicity.
So it's just really hard to stay on that path. I think that's kind of the key, is if you really open yourself up to trying to listen to who you are, you end up listening to your intuition, and it just kind of brings you full circle. It's not really about the conviction and the passion about this thing. It's like letting go of all that.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. So it's interesting, the whole path to it. I recognize that it's like sometimes there's just nothing I can do except keep doing what I'm doing, and then somehow it seems to sort of shift. It's 8:48 and it's freaking freezing, and I don't want everyone, including myself, to get pneumonia. So we'll wrap it up. I just want to say really a thank you to everyone for coming out. It was funny. I said to Jane, who opened everything up, I said, if half the people come for the people that texted and said they're not coming, we should be okay. It's funny too. You say, "Oh, I'm going to do this thing," and then all of a sudden, you know, it's like people are like, "Oh yeah, I'm busy. Oh yeah, oh yeah, yeah," and then they say, "Oh," and some people say, "Oh yeah," and then they say, "Oh yeah, I can't make it at the last minute." You're like, but you know, I really realized, like last night, I'm like, you know what? Whoever comes, comes, and this is for whoever actually shows up. It's not for the people that I think should be here. This is for the people that actually show up, and the people that show up the next time, or the people that show up the next time, and that's just how it is. Like, there really is no accident, and there really is no outcome that I can force other than the one that's right in front of me. Right? There is no. I just can't. I can push, but I might not actually get anywhere but where I'm at. So thank you guys all that did show up. I do want to say a special thanks again to Jane Ganal for opening this up. She's a very talented, please round of applause for Jane. She's super, super, super talented, and to take time out of her wonderful schedule, she runs a literary conference called Litquake, and she's amazing. And so for her to come down, I'm really grateful. I also want to say thank you to Living Green, who lovingly provided the greenery, the orchid at the front, and something up here to make this sort of live stream thing not look like, you know, a curtain with a guy sitting in a white shirt in front of it. Thank you, Davis, for not making me look lame. Thank you to Julie Meisner, who's been a wonderful supporter of InTalks. I super, super appreciate everything you've done for InTalks, as well as all the other supporters who donated online and have just kind of been with me through this whole process. And I want to say a special thank you to Isaac, my boyfriend, who has put up with me doing this thing, and he's actually edited all the copy on all the things and everything that you've seen. He's my editor, so thank you. Yes. So what would be God, I didn't even think of a little closer thing. What would be a little closer thing? Oh, I know. So the next InTalks. Damn, I'm good. So yeah, a closer. So the next question for InTalks is going to be, is it possible to be greedy and selfish at the same time as being giving and selfless? So can we hold space, to be like somebody that's, I want, and be somebody that's like, I'm going to give and give and give too? Is that possible for us to be that? So please join us next time, last Thursday of every month through 2014. A big round of applause for yourselves. Thank you.